Hello and welcome to the Permaculture Vine podcast, episode 2. Today we have Katie Stout, who is in New York State. Can you just introduce yourself, Katie, please?
You got it. Hello, Cormac.
All
Thanks for
right.
having me on here. And yeah, my name is Katie. I'm the co-founder with my husband Andrew of Regenerative Property Management, and we're a design, install, maintenance, and education permaculture business. So we're trying to introduce Central New York State to edible landscaping and permaculture design. It's pretty unfamiliar around here.
Yeah, that sounds class. We'll get that in a minute, but how did you start in permaculture and how did you become then taking from sort of discovering permaculture to actually doing your uh you know getting work on it and
Yeah, so a number of years ago, I've been working on organic farms a lot of my adult life, and organic farming is it's a great step forward from conventional farming, but it's also a lot of backbreaking work, constant weeding, constant watering, and you still see a lot of topsoil blowing away. And so at one point I was working on a farm locally, and the farm manager said, "Hey, there's this permaculture gathering. It's a meetup down in Syracuse. They're having an all day thing with some speakers." And I'm like, "Well, what's permaculture?" And so she told me a little bit about it, and just that it was a system that mimicked natural ecosystems in agriculture. So I was fascinated and went to this all day workshop and was introduced through an organization called the Alchemical Nursery, which is local in Syracuse, New York here. And this guy has been doing permaculture with community food forests and things like that now for, I'd say, over a decade, a little south of us. Just hasn't caught on yet, right? So I learned about it. I got a bug in my ear, and I decided I'm going to find a permaculture design certification so I can learn more about this. I wanted a homestead, and so I wanted to be able to do it right. And I wanted to stop seeing all the soil blow away and stop having to weed constantly, and continually go to the chiropractor and the
uh,
endless back injury, when you're doing that kind of farm work. So yeah, so I started my permaculture design certification at the Hancock Permaculture Center in Eastern New York State. And I went to a couple of awesome intensive weekends there. And then my work schedule got out of control. My budget disappeared, for various reasons as things come up in life. And so I wasn't able to complete all of the modules at that point. So years will go by. Eventually, my husband and I bought some land in central New York in Parish, and we have just under 17 acres of forested property. There's tons of hills. It's all glacial formations and depositions. So it's sandy and rocky and, lots of erosion, and a beautiful little salmon river running through it. And so it's a gorgeous forested property. And we thought, well, what we can do is build the soil here. And so that's what we've been trying to do since we got here. So we moved in, and in between teaching, I used to teach full time in higher education. I found an online permaculture certification through the Holistic Homesteading Academy, and it was self-paced. And so it's a great program. They had just all these different modules about like, theory, practical application, and I'm trying to remember the other category that they had, and design. And so, yeah, so I finished that. It took me over a year to finish that, but I did, and realized like, holy crap, we got way in over our heads before we started on this property. And I had to backtrack and try to like redesign and, figure out like, how do I troubleshoot the stuff that I know I did wrong. So
So you didn't know what you didn't know.
yeah, yeah. And so like,
Uh,
thank God for permaculture as a systems approach, and the skills that we can get, when we learn how to apply these principles, and so it's been a journey since then. We've been here now 4.5 years. We put in over 80 fruit and nut trees and bushes last year. We've been sheet mulching different parts of the like the south facing roadside garden for about 4 years. And I just recently looked back at pictures about where we started, what it looked like, and what we had accomplished last year in our growing season. And sometimes you look at what you're doing right now and you're like, ah, crap, like we haven't done this, we haven't done this, we haven't done. But I looked at that and I was like, man, we really did something, like that. It's so much more fertile up there now. And it's just, it feels good, like having that comparison.
yeah, it's good. I think that's what as a Jeff Lawton advises, just take plenty of photographs because you don't
Yeah.
realize where you've come from and what you've done. And we can all be hard on ourselves at times and like that when you don't get through your list every year.
Yeah.
But then when you look at what you've done, it's always good. I always make sure I look back on that, and then even when you're talking to people and consults or stuff, you realize then even how much you're learning as you go. So like 4 years, and now you're homesteading 4 years. You must have a lot of knowledge gathered and built up about your own property and permaculture in general.
Yeah, and lots of trial and error, I feel like we learn the most from our own failures and when other people share their failures. That's one thing I loved about my design certification I took from the Holistic Homesteading Academy, is that they're super open about sharing stuff that didn't work. And then like for me, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense, like to see something work perfectly is one thing. But to see something, you try it and it's like, well, here's the reasons why this didn't work the way we thought. It's like a whole nother view on the system, when you actually throw the cogs into the, the system and it's
And
like,
it
great.
may work for someone down the road for me, but just not work for you. I
Yeah.
think that's important to remember too. In permaculture, basically, it's a solution for your property.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you after doing your PDC, then were you still working in? So you were working in education. Did you um? How did you then they start to work then in permaculture after your PDC? Did you get a design job or?
That's another good question. So, I got my PDC mostly because I thought like this is going to be helpful just for us developing this property. We actually donated the property to our church, and because we really want it to be this, you know, oasis in perpetuity, clean water, clean food, places to stay, eventually that's what we're working on right now. And so it was really for that. And I didn't see myself having a career in permaculture because I had been working for 15 years being an English professor, and I had finally gotten a full-time job as running a writing center at our community college. And I thought, well, okay, here's where I'm at. This is good money, it'll fund our projects. I wasn't happy though, it was a lot of political and administrative nonsense, that I was having to deal with all the time. It didn't make any sense to me. I was tutoring English. That seemed pretty straightforward. But as it goes in big corporate entities, there's fear, a lot of fear. And I was feeling it. And so I was considering leaving, and then COVID hit, shut down everything. My husband's a chiropractor, and we had just opened an office for him in our local town, and he was just getting rolling. We were like 3 months in, and he was doing great, like with basically no marketing, just word of mouth. We were in the black for our first month, and then boom, COVID came, completely closed his office down. Had to give it up. We just couldn't keep up with the bills and stuff at that point. And then I knew it was coming. I got laid off just a couple months after that. They completely eliminated my position. Went to like online tutoring pretty much, for the college from a consortium of, state tutors or whatever. And so all of a sudden we found ourselves like cut loose, and so we talked, we're like, well, what do we want to do? Like, where are our hearts, right now? And for Andrew to try to reopen a chiropractic office, it was just too much. Like that was a big blow, because we put our savings into that, we really didn't have anything in reserve to just start something new right away. And so we're like, all right. Andrew had been working in traditional landscaping for about a decade, helping a buddy of his that he went to school with build his business up. And so he had a lot of experience in traditional landscaping and making, putting in ornamentals and mulching and edging and making things look pretty and hardscaping and all that stuff. And then I had this permaculture design certification and a bunch of experience on our homestead, planning and replanning and redoing and replanning. And we talked about it. We're like, well, why don't we start an edible landscaping company? Let's try this out. And so we kind of tabled it because we just, we didn't have the courage, to really go for it at that point. And then all of a sudden we heard about food forest abundance and what they were doing, with with a franchise basically to do edible landscaping. And we thought, well, let's hook up with them. Let's see what they're up to. And it really gave us the courage. I got trained up on professional designing, like thanks in a large part to like your network, your organization, Cormac, and and all of the like the wonderful computer aspects of design and all that stuff, and generating a portfolio, and and then getting trained up on just basic estimating, doing estimates for installations. It's a big learning curve, and really the only way to learn how to do it, I think, is to do it. You can do your own projects. We do a lot of estimates now for our own projects, different prospectus for, like this Kickstarter we've got going on to build our first guest house here. And so first we did an estimate. We put together all the list of all the materials and the time we thought, and what's this going to take, and just like what we would put out to a customer, like this is how much we would need to actually be successful on this project. And so that's a huge learning curve, if you're doing big complicated installations, if you're redoing somebody's entire landscape with permaculture.
Yeah,
So
it's something I'm looking at this year. So to complement sort of the online design side, they actually get my hands a bit dirtier and start the edible landscaping company. I have a company, Edible Installs, which is a local company here.
nice.
So I'll have to pick your brain on that one.
Oh yeah, please
How to
do.
get started. So basically, all I'm going to do is service the lawnmower and the strummer, and fill the trailer.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
see where it goes from there.
Sweet.
I have to get pick your brain about that one.
Awesome. Yeah.
And as you say, it's just what I found with this anyway, is just getting started, getting momentum is very important. Just doing.
Yeah, just going for it, and like it can be scary because you're working with people who they have expectations, they're anxious about it. They want to hire the right people. It's an investment. It's a significant investment to do any kind of landscaping on your property, and if you're putting money into putting food on your property, like you want to be productive, and it's just like there's a lot of deliverables, and and you've got to show up at the right time and leave at the right time and make sure that that's all communicated and agreed upon, and and everybody has to get paid, and and there's all the back end part with insurance and getting your business, on the interwebs, and that's what we're working on now, is like a lot of marketing and updating the websites, and getting our photo decks updated, and and all this stuff. And you think like, I always think like the winter might be a time to rest. It's really just like all these projects that piled up from the summertime when we were out planting, that like, okay, I gotta catch up on this now, and I gotta do my accounting and put in all the receipts and get ready for tax season, and all
Well,
that
what,
stuff.
so what do you find the most challenging in running a permaculture business?
The most challenging right now is making sure, is really getting in front of the right people, right? So right now, most of our clients we travel to. We're traveling 3+ hours to do installations for folks, and there's just a learning curve. It's a relatively new, I mean, it's not new, it's been around since the 70s, but in our area specifically, like permaculture requires a lot of education, for people to understand what it is. And so we've rebranded to regenerative property maintenance, because for us to start engaging people in conversations about what we do, what we're doing is doing regular maintenance. Like we'll come and we'll clean out gutters, we'll do cutbacks in the fall. People ask us to do leaf removal, and we'll do it, but we're using it as a way to talk about leaves as a resource, and most people aren't, that are looking for that. They're just like, get these leaves out of here, right? And we take them, like if we load them onto a trailer, and we're like, can we take these leaves? We're going to turn them into compost. And then they're like, okay, and they start thinking a little bit. And I think that gradual introduction to, sort of plugging those energy leaks and using the resources that are here, and understanding that like the leaf fall is really necessary, to continue to build the soil health and to provide habitats for overwintering, and like little amphibians and stuff like that. It's a way in. And then of course we always need compost. We're trying to build soil here, so we just dump it on our property, and cover our plants up for the fall. And one of these days, I know we're gonna crack some of those people that we've been doing the traditional maintenance for, and because they're interested, they ask questions. But yeah, that's really been the biggest challenge. Is just helping people understand what we do, and helping them understand the value in it, especially over time. So to do that, we're really building up a demonstration site on our property, on our roadside. And it's the roadsides where I've been sheet mulching for like 4 years now. And so the fertility is really nice. And I just need to make it look pretty. We've got to do all the fancy stuff. So it looks like something that people would be okay having in their front yard or their
Yeah,
backyard.
I get a lot of grief for that, because my front garden, I let it grow, and the dandelions grow, and like
Yeah.
some people look at it in horror, like, oh, them dandelions, and I says, isn't it great? They're fixing my garden for me.
Yeah.
They're
Exactly.
they're doing a great job, and then instead of pulling them up and ripping them up, and
Yeah.
nettles as well. People look at the nettles and go, nettles the weeds, and I go, it's grand. Uh, just they're great. A nettle
Yeah.
tea.
Yeah.
uh,
I was propagating nettles.
uh,
I planted some. I was like, I'm gonna put a nice little row over here. We're gonna, a
yeah.
little out of the way, so we're not walking through them all the time getting stung. But yeah, like dandelions. Every time I go for a walk up and down our road during dandelion season, I kick them. I spread the seeds all over the place. Like, we need more in our yard. Let's throw them over here. And
Yeah, which it shows you how permaculture is so far off the norm that
yeah,
something
which
that's considered like leaves, considered trash, they throw them, bag them, and throw them,
yeah, it's
and
wild.
spend oil and resources to take them somewhere else. It's like,
Yeah.
This is like free fertilizer for your garden, free, as you say, free habitat. Bring the bugs in that'll help your plants grow. And it's when I find anyway, once you start figuring these things out and you have that mind shift, it makes a big difference. You know, less stress, more abundance, more stuff about. And I used to get all the grass clippings from wherever I could get them, and I'd compost them.
Nice.
But now I don't get so much because we have a brown bin. So our council takes all our brown bin away. They put it through a big anaerobic digester, I think.
Hmm.
And they compost it as well. So that's a change. And the challenges but at Pete Canara thinks is that as well in Green Dreams Florida. He's a YouTube channel. He said I basically when don't sell a permaculture business, sell an edible garden business.
Yeah.
And you're using permaculture, but you have to do it by stealth almost.
You know, you can't, like, I get so excited talking to people about weeds, and it was crazy to me because a friend of mine who did her permaculture design certification before I did, we worked together at one of the local colleges for a while, and she and I, with another couple friends, we pitched a permaculture living lab to put on our campus. And the campus went for it. It was great, you know. UMass Amherst has a really excellent permaculture program for their campus. And so we went and did a training there and then sort of brought what we learned back to our home campus. And so my friend really took off with it and, you know, ended up managing it. And, you know, at first they didn't want to pay anybody to do any sort of maintenance or work or anything, you know. And thank God, you know, she figured out a way to sell the idea that like this is actually like super helpful and a great resource and learning opportunity for people, you know, in all these disciplines all over campus. But one of the things that blew my mind about her is she's just like, I hate dandelions. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? Like you can use them this way, this way, this way. They're good for this, this, and this in the garden, you know. And she's just like, I just can't stand them. And I'm like, no, you got to let go of that programming, you know. Like they're majestic, you know. Like look at them, they're like little tiny lion's manes, you know, like bursts of sunshine, and like they do so much for the soil, like so much.
For the soil, for the bees. There's nothing else about it that time of year.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, they were introduced in the United States, like they were brought over from, you know, colonists and quickly adapted by the indigenous people, you know, because they're so useful. So that's, I mean,
and you read your weeds. That's
yeah.
I think people have to understand it. The weeds there for a reason. If you weren't there, that weed has chosen to grow there. Therefore, it's fulfilling a purpose.
Yeah.
And I think Jeff Lawton did an experiment where he talks about if you say you get a patch of ground and you burn some of the ground, and you put the basically four pieces of ground that are slightly different, and you throw a pile of weed seeds on them, the different weed seeds will germinate in different circumstances, depending on what's there. So it's just that's I butchered that a wee bit, but it's sort of, you get the meaning. It's basically the weed seeds there for a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And like it's fun to watch too. I think one of the reasons why, definitely one of the reasons why it doesn't look as, you know, quote unquote pretty here, you know, like in a standard aesthetic way, or whatever people do with their landscape these days, is because I like watching to see what happens, you know. And whereas when we started this roadside garden, it was basically all dewberries, just like, you know, very acidic soil and these thorny vines, you know, that just grow across the ground and produce little tiny blackberry looking things, and they taste good. You know, it was all that. And now we have like every year different kinds of weeds coming up. And so we've got lots and lots of yarrows and Queen Anne's lace and black-eyed Susans, and we had a new one this year. I don't even know what it's called, but it's got these beautiful bright pink flowers, you know, that just drop seeds everywhere. And so I was grabbing them and just throwing the seeds all over the place. Like, let's get more of these flowers around, you know, and more dandelions. We had no dandelions, but I've been throwing dandelion, seeds, kicking them in our direction for a couple of years now. And and just finding the berry bushes. We've got a lot of blackberry bushes, and so just finding those, pruning them, staking them up a little bit, and now we produce a ton of blackberries, just by kind of seeing like, oh, hey, they're here. Let me give them a little bit of attention. Let me look at them, create a relationship, pick them when they're ripe, tell them like, yeah, we like you, keep producing more. And and prune them back just a little bit, and I don't go crazy with pruning because our winters tend to prune stuff for us. We get some gnarly weather here. And just I feel like when you pay attention to plants and interact with them, they just grow better. Like they grow a lot and they produce more, and they know. They just want to give you stuff.
Yeah. It's not that complicated. Like it's I think as you said, it's just that programming, and we lost our connection to food, and it took very quick. What, 2 generations, 3 generations?
Hard to understand it all. Yeah.
And it's just everybody's squeamish about composting or just the relationship with food. They won't eat a dandelion out of their garden. They won't. It's like, well, I have to get it from the supermarket. So I think that's suppose where our we need these businesses. We need people working in permaculture to promote this stuff. So I like your approach that you sort of do it by stealth. That you're a regenerative property manager, but then you are sort of thinking that long-term plan of actually being there to speak to people on the ground who might actually want to design. And then you said you have an education center. You hold courses as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't go so far as to call it an education center, but we host workshops. So between our place and the main church for our organization, Awakening Consciousness Fellowship, it's a non-denominational church. People study, self-realization through meditation and things like that. We do workshops there and here, and we've done them on composting, brewing compost tea, sheet mulching, different kinds of mushroom inoculation. We've done a lot with the mushroom inoculation because we have a great place for that. We've done a lot of regenerative forestry work. We actually applied for and received a grant last year. Maybe it was the year before, for the DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, Regenerate New York program. And so we had a forester come in and help us create a plan to open up our forest canopy with selective removal of like low vigor, diseased trees, that kind of thing, to give more room for timber trees to grow and develop, so we can actually harvest those for lumber at some point when they're large enough. We harvested some lumber trees already in the part of this grant, and then to sort of reduce vegetation that competes and will overtake. And so this is like a very natural process, right? So we have like a lot of beech in our forest, and beech does awesome in dense shade and can grow and sprout like crazy in an understory. And they do that and they crowd out everything else. And so you end up with a beech forest, right? And they're beautiful, and they produce beech nuts, and it's a perfectly natural process. They're not, they're called like invasive or whatever, but like it's just, like we just have a different plan that we want for this land right now. and it's to have more diversity here, so we can produce like a diverse selection of food for humans and wildlife. Have things like maple tapping, allow the maples to thrive, that kind of thing, and so we're reducing the number of beech in our forest. We're reducing the number of certain types of ferns because they sort of crowd out understory plants and spread like crazy. Ferns are also great mulch, by the way. So we weed whack them in the spring and fall. Yeah. And just leave them, and they're like a nice, slowly decomposing mulch. So they keep the moisture in there. They add a lot of nutrients to the soil. And then we covered up like oak saplings, like we protected like little baby oak saplings and tree tubes. And so that's going to be like more for timber harvest, selectively in years to come, and to produce acorns. And, we've got acorns raining down on us right now from an oak tree, you
Lovely.
know, not right now, but like, during acorn season, they just, they plunk all over the tin roof. That's kind of fun. Oh
It's
yeah.
handy for
Yeah.
collecting them. And you said there you're starting a Kickstarter fund or a Kickstarter campaign, I think they call them.
Yeah.
And what's that
Yeah.
for?
We've got it going right now, and it's going for like another week, I think, through the 23rd is the last day to contribute. We started off with like this awesome momentum, and then it just like stopped. So please take a look at it. But it's to build our first like guest house / workshop space. So we've got space here. We live in it's a tiny home. It's basically an Amish shed that we converted into a place to live. We haven't spent a whole lot of time on it because we're always out working outside. And so, we have visitors here, but like not really any space for people inside. And so it really limits our workshops to be like during one specific part of the year. And that's our busiest time of year also. So we want to be able to have people out here to learn about permaculture, to learn about wellness. Like I said, my partner Andrew is a chiropractor also. I'm a yoga instructor, meditation instructor, and we just want to be able to welcome people into this space to stay, learn, even if they just want to get away from, the nonsense and the BS of the world, have like a nice private spot out in nature. It's beautiful here, there's nature walks, nature trails. There's amazing salmon fishing in my area in
Now we're
September.
talking.
Yeah.
uh,
And basically like everything sells out. Rentals sell out all over our area during September and October for this crazy salmon fishing season. And so we know that could meet a need as well for people coming into the area and fishing. And
and introduce them to permaculture at the same time.
yeah,
Uh,
that's the deal. Like it's
uh,
another one of those avenues in. It's like somebody who loves the outdoors, who loves to go fishing, for whatever reason, they can be here and just see what permaculture can do, and that's really the idea is like, hey, how'd you do that? Or like, I noticed you've got food all over the place. Like, that's really cool. And, that kind of thing. So get people experiencing it and talking about it, and really seeing the benefits it can have, not just for making something pretty or having a nice snack, but to really fix a lot of the issues that our world is dealing with right now,
well,
the
they're all solvable in the garden. Is that what?
they are, they are. It's so
uh,
straightforward and it
uh,
seems way too easy, but it's really not. It's just let's build soil,
I'll stick on my tinfoil hat now. My beef is just all the solutions that come up with. It's just to make people money. They,
Yeah.
they never come up with an easy solution. It's like it's always these big fancy solutions that somebody has to make a profit. It drives me nuts. So I just
It
ignore it. So I just switch it off.
Yep, one of the
uh,
best things I've ever done in my life is stop watching the news, stop watching television, stop watching advertisements. Not that I don't have like a Netflix habit, because I do, not perfect, but just like turning off the fear, just like
yeah, it's
the
constant. Just get out in the garden and grow stuff. That's to me,
yeah,
it's as simple as that. Just get out, go for a walk. Just you can't affect. It'll affect you. You can't affect it,
yeah,
but you can
yeah,
affect it if you just turn it off and go outside. Because
absolutely. You don't give it your attention, and the
yeah,
power is completely gone.
yeah.
They lose the power, and that's what it is. It's a war for attention, and
Mm. And I, I
you know
still I still know what's going on in the world, even though I don't watch the news or TV. I watch a wee bit of TV, but not that much.
yeah.
Um, so I'll put a link for that Kickstarter in the description. I think isn't that what they say? Click a link here.
Yeah, click a link.
Over there. And just lastly, now we'll wrap this up. Advice for people who are sort of either looking to get into permaculture as a career, really. What would you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I mean, part A, something I learned is a permaculture design certification is really helpful. It really is. And I don't know, find one that you like. If you want to go travel to, a tropical island for 3 weeks and get your certification there, awesome. Like that sounds cool, but that wasn't my lifestyle. And so I did the, study from home kind. And there's really good ones out there, people doing a lot of good stuff. So I would go for that. It's affordable. And then just try it, like even if you're not getting your certification, first things first, look at Vine Permaculture and the stuff that they put out. Look at anything you can find online, like watch some videos, try something, brew some compost tea. Like it sounds weird and funky, but it's just like, okay, if I follow these steps, I can do this. And if anybody wants to brew compost tea, I'll teach you. Like, send me an email, whatever, ask questions, like reach out. Permaculturists, like we all want to talk about what we're doing. We all want to teach, we all want to, like, it's what we live for, is sharing this stuff. And, like, don't be afraid to just throw some seeds in the ground, see what happens. I coach some clients and they're like, I've never started a seed before, and I remember demonstrating, just taking a seed packet, just sort of tapping it in, little arugula seeds. And my client and her daughter were like, wow, you're really good at that. And I'm like, I am. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then she
well,
took pictures, she's like, oh, I seeded the rest of these and I seeded radishes. And she sent me pictures of them growing, and everybody can grow food. Everybody can do it.
and it's very empowering. And for me, like once you taste salad from your own garden, particularly lettuce, because everybody can grow lettuce. Doesn't take that long. I didn't know lettuce tasted of anything before I grew my own. I can't eat lettuce from anywhere else now because it just doesn't taste nice. And when you're picking it out the back, and it's basically on your I didn't even wash it. You're picking it off the back and you're eating it straight away. You're putting it in your plate. It's like no food miles. There's no nutrient loss, and it's the best food you get. And to me, then that's what sort of it'll get you going. Then you go, right, what else can I grow?
Yeah.
But and then in terms of business as well, so you get your PDC, do your PDC professional course at Fine Permaculture. That'll teach you professional design.
Yeah.
And anything else? Maybe do a free design for somebody to showcase your skills and just to see then. And for me, the biggest problem I see with the new designers is they want to put everything on the page. But you have to sort of tailor it to your customer and where they're at.
Yeah, so, that's a great point. Yeah, because like when I did sector maps of our place, I have like 10 drawings of different, different views and different perspectives, looking at the different sectors, and the client doesn't need to see that, but that's something that you probably need to do to get, a sense of a property. Or that's what I need to do to get a sense of a property, is to have, like, I created a spreadsheet, in Google Drive, like, okay, here's all my sector mapping resources. And I would copy it and then fill it in for each of my clients, like link to files, link to online stuff, link to their web soil survey, that kind of stuff, just to.
Yeah, I think I should. We worked together on that project. I think you showed me that before.
Yeah. So like finding a way to be organized, that works for you, I think is like a big deal. When you start managing a bunch of clients, and if you have stuff all over the place, it can be just a giant pain, to find.
Google Drive's your friend.
Yeah. Google might be watching, but like, I kind of want Google to see what we're doing, you know, like there's been some cool stuff.
Everybody's watching.
Yeah.
uh, uh,
Yeah.
Katie, that was really interesting. Thanks very much for sharing your story.
Yeah, I always love speaking with you, Cormac, and
Uh,
you know, it's you enliven my life with your fancy accent, so as well as your fancy ideas.
yeah. Uh, thanks very much.
Yeah.
That's great. And you
Thank
can
you.
Katie's links are all in the description if you want to go to your Kickstarter or Regenerative Property Services. Is that right?
Yeah, Regenerative Property Management. So
Property
it's
Management.
I'll throw my website up to growrpm.org.
That's
So
great. And thanks again. We'll see you
thank you
all.
for having
See
me.
you there. Thanks. Cheers.